Online. I'm Siobhan Lyon.
And I'm Paul Gill.
And today we're going to be talking about perception.
Okay.
Whoop! Are you ready?
Yeah, off you go.
So basically, I suppose, what are we saying about perception is just, we're wondering, everybody has a different perception of, something that happens. And of course, we're going to talk about memories,
Memory, yeah.
How good is that and how effective is memory? According to the research, not very effective when we get into a bit of that. And then we're going to talk about the difference between male and female and different things that happen in schools, maybe with bullying and stuff like that as well today. So we're going to cover a good bit around this today.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
I'm very fascinated with memory because one of the things that I would have studied is false memories.
Yes.
Where somebody can have a false memory of something.
Yeah.
And this is quite common because we grew up with the perception that our memory was like a video camera.
Yeah.
Recorded everything, and then you meet somebody who says, remember that event and whatever.
Yeah.
But then you get talking to them, they go, no, actually, no, that he wasn't there that day. It was somebody else. And go, no, he was. I remember it.
And he's wearing a blue coat and the whole thing.
They go, no, that was the other time when. And then you start to question.
Yeah.
And you realize your memory isn't 100% accurate. It's a perception.
Yes. Your
perception of what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always believe that we have conducted ourselves in a better manner than we actually did. Where sometimes we're having an argument with somebody and, as the years go by, we add to that. We'll say, oh, well, I told him to do this, that, or the other, Whereas you didn't actually say that at all. You probably believe
you said it in your head. You rehearsed it in your head. Rehearsed it in your head.
But after, as time goes by, you just forget that, and it's like you actually believe that you said those words when you didn't.
But a simple example to illustrate how memory is fallible is that fishing. I like fishing, but there could be guys in pubs up and down the country who 20 years ago caught a fish and it was kind of a certain size, but tonight in the pub they're saying, and the fish was this size and I have to
40-pound weight.
I have to dive into the river and push it out, and they got a truck with a wrench, pulled it. No, we tend to exaggerate, and especially if it makes us look better, we'll exaggerate something and we'll minimize if it goes the other way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We always think that we behaved more, honorably than we actually did.
Yeah, but we didn't. You know what? One of the things that I was thinking of recently is that in school, like there was a guy in school. There's always at least one in school who gets a bit of bullying or a bit of slagging.
Yeah.
And it's the thing. And I was thinking, I was probably guilty of bullying. I'm not a bully. I absolutely abhor bullying.
Yeah.
But even in that regard, that can be an indicator that I think that there can be a bully within us all. The thing that you hate the most, you'll see it out there in the world. It's actually also within you.
Yeah.
This guy, he used to have prominent teeth and he wore glasses, and I used to be always drawing these pictures of a rabbit, like Bugs Bunny, on the blackboard or whatever, and it was to slag him off.
Yeah.
But now all these years later, I was only a teenager.
I know.
You kind of go, geez, that was terrible behaviour.
Yeah, I know. You feel so guilty. Actually, it's a lovely piece of research done that says that we feel worse about the traumas that we cause other people, rather than the traumas that are actually done onto us,
right?
Than the ones we experience ourselves.
Yeah.
So, and I found this out actually. It was the military in America. I forget what you call them. Some research board over there, anyways, did this piece of research because their soldiers were actually coming back more traumatized by the things that they did in war rather than the things that were done to them or the things they seen.
Yeah.
So I think it's amazing. It's really very fascinating.
Yeah.
Because you have more guilt with that, don't you?
You do, and as we said in a previous video, it's like peer pressure when you're doing you do what everybody else is doing around you.
Yeah.
Without question.
You just go with the flow.
And I remember a military man was saying to me, I was saying to him, why did it waste so much time marching people up and down, practice up and down? I said, because when you can get people to mindlessly march for you, they'll do anything.
Wow.
They'll obey your commands without question.
Good God, that's amazing.
They're conditioned.
Wow.
Yeah. Memory. One of the things that I was reading about recently is that in the States, I think it was in the States, I can't remember exactly how long ago, is that there was this is me typically the meat and the sandwich. I remember what the core of the thing was, but if you ask me when was this done, who did it, and whatever, I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah.
But I remember the essence of it. This lady, her mother drowned in a swimming pool when this lady was a little girl.
Oh God.
And that was traumatic. And this girl grew up to be I don't know if she was a psychologist or a scientist, but she was studying how the mind works and all the rest. But her uncle, chatting to him one day, he said, "Oh, I think it was you that found her in the pool, dead." And then suddenly, over the course of a couple of days and weeks, this woman started to have memories coming back of finding her mother in the pool and the trauma and upset and all the rest. But then after a while, her uncle goes, "She said, no, it wasn't you. It was your cousin that found her." She hadn't been there at all, but her mind had conjured up all of these memories.
Yeah.
And she couldn't differentiate between what she had imagined and what was an actual memory. Yeah. And she went on to help people study memory. And one of the things she would have people watch is a car accident. And then she would ask them questions afterwards on the thing. And she found that the language she used would embellish the person's response to memory. So she said to somebody, like, how fast do you think the car was going before it impacted with the bus? And they might give a certain answer. But she said, how fast do you think the car was going before it smashed and careered into the bus? To give an exaggerated answer, because she used the word smashed and careered. So the event is what it was, the car crashed into the bus. But now that she used more explosive language, the person ups the response to it. Or even she might say to her, how fast do you think the green car was going before it hit the bus? The car wasn't green.
It was blue. Yeah, I remember this research as well. They were all those participants were asked a year later then what was their memory of that accident, and they just had completely different things. Some people said it was a red car, other people insisted it was blue. It was just incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And some people said that the bus actually crashed into the car. It was like it was crazy.
Turn things on their heads.
Yeah, it really did flip things around.
Yeah.
But it just showed that, your memory is not great. Now, having said that, I do believe that people who have been severely traumatized through sexual abuse or something as children, your memory is crystal clear. Like, there is no fade in what you remember about those instances. I remember myself knowing exactly what my perpetrators were wearing to a T. Like the color, the look in their eyes, the color of the jeans or the tracksuit bottom, whatever it was. And I would have been very intoxicated maybe at the time, but my memory was so sharp. And it wasn't until I did EMDR therapy actually that started to fade away. And now I couldn't tell you, exactly.
You processed, but were you always aware of that memory? The way some people will repress sexual abuse?
Not until I was asked about it. It's so weird because, like, even still, things might come up from my past. So I've completely forgotten about that memory, But it's amazing. Like, it's not till you enter into therapy that you go through it and you go, oh, yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah.
Because the feeling hits you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you get the associated memory with the feeling.
Yeah. And what I touched on there about repression, I think I mentioned it in a previous podcast, was the difference between repression and suppression. Suppression is where you have a bad day at work, you go home and you decide, I'm not going to think about that.
Yeah, shove it back there.
Repression is where you have a bad experience and your subconscious mind does that automatically for you and forgets to tell you it's done that. And all you know is that you have a feeling, especially in certain situations, you don't know why. Yeah. And that's a sign of a repression.
But you swallow it down, don't you? You swallow it back. I can't talk about that. I don't want to think about it. It's too painful to think about. So
it's a coping strategy. And it's a valid coping strategy, but it's not the best.
It always comes back at us later. So I think that's why we end up with a lot of patients that come to us with, like depression or anxiety or something like that. And they think this is what's wrong with them, or I've obsessive compulsive disorder, and they come with that as the front issue.
Yeah.
But the back issue is actually nearly always
they come with
major traumatic event in their life that has caused them to feel like this.
And there's usually a reason for OCDs or that it's somebody obeying this subconscious compulsion to do this. But that hasn't kicked off randomly. There's a reason for it.
Definitely.
But when we talk about perception, I suppose in its purest form, again, something I was listening to recently was talking about we engage with the world through our senses. And so we very much use like what we see. And it's very interesting because we see on the available spectrum of white light, and that's only, I think the podcast said it was 1/1,000,000th of what's actually there.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know how minuscule that is? We think that what we experience in the world is reality, and it is our reality. But even animals or insects will see ultraviolet or whatever, and even like our perception of color. Like my perception of red mightn't be the same as your red, and we'll never know.
What was I looking at recently? It was like that.
Yeah.
They say you see the colors that you eat or something that you should eat, or that's, you know, for danger or for immune system or whatever it is. All this,
I'll tell you about that later.
Nutritional thing. Very, very funny. Like, but you're saying about the insects they see in ultraviolet, so that's because they need to identify their enemies so they can get away from them or their predator.
Or see what color flowers or
what's good for them to eat.
Yeah. But again, in I don't know, was it the same podcast or a different one? Was talking about in Alcatraz, in that prison on the island, where if prisoners misbehaved, they were put in this hole.
Oh yeah.
Which was sensory deprivation. It was blackness. It was nothing. And initially, you know, they might go a bit lula, a bit mad, or whatever. But the longer they were there, the more their visual sensory thing kicked in. So they weren't able to see anything. But some people imagined that the room was illuminated and it was bright and they could see everything. And of course, they knew where everything was by touch. And now, as far as they're concerned, they were in a bright space. Or people started hallucinating, you know, that they were out playing golf or they were somewhere else. And as far as their minds were concerned, this was a real experience.
Your mind is just incredible, isn't it? What you can actually do with your mind. What an imagination we're bringing, because I know, like, we're kind of half in the conscious and half in the subconscious, and there's a big difference between the reality of both, you know, for different people. It's different for everybody, like, but like, you know, how you can use that, I suppose, to create the life you want as well. I know there's loads of talk about this, you know, on the internet now. Oh, create the life you want, and, you know, become,
manifestation and
manifest, and The Secret and everything. But it really is a science. There's an exact science to doing it. And it's a lot more in depth than just the basic stuff that we see maybe in the book, like The Secret or something like that.
Well, every one of us are manifesting anyway. So the life you currently have, you have manifested that. You could blame your teacher, your parents, your circumstances, but you've manifested that. So you can go, I don't need to learn how to manifest. I just have to understand why I've manifested what I currently have, and what positive intent it has, because it has a positive intent, and how to then rewire or rework how you're doing this to begin to manifest what it is you do want. To me, the mind, like, you know, there's no clear distinction between conscious and subconscious. You don't kind of go to a level and go, you are now entering the subconscious. It's like being in water, being in the sea, and the top is like the conscious, but as you get down, you're getting into the subconscious. There's no kind of a hard, fast line. You float.
You're good at this because you do the hypnotherapy, you know, and you kind of move seamlessly between even lucid sleep and dreaming and stuff like that. I wouldn't be skilled at that. So I wouldn't have the same, I don't think I'd be as effective, because, like, for me, subconscious, I'm asleep. Do you know what I mean? Or I'm accessing that through some scientific.
Have you ever had the experience if you're driving somewhere and next thing you arrive in home and you go, oh shit, I'm back home. I meant to go somewhere. And subconsciously your mind is running programs and it's kind of going, oh, she's heading in the direction home. She must be going home. And you're not thinking about it. That you're in subconscious. You're not asleep. But you're in a subconscious state of mind. So there's programs running this way, that way, every way within the mind, and you just have to be. You can be aware of. This is the thing. I can be very, very aware of what my mind is doing at any time, and it's extraordinarily useful. I don't get lost in it. I mean, I do talk to people. I do. I don't sit in a corner and think, oh, it was one night.
Conversation.
I can drink tea and coffee and all the rest. But it is extraordinarily useful that if there's a problem or an issue, to understand why your mind is doing that. It's not doing it to you, it's doing it for you, because there's always a positive. And again, it's our perception of our reality, you know, what's happening in our lives. And I always say too, and I suppose this podcast I was listening to kind of bears it out, is that if you have a problem, it's undoubtedly in your past. Because again, the podcast was talking about that we receive information, our brains in this darkness in our heads, in our skulls, and it never gets out. Luckily, But our perception, our senses, our eyes, our hearing, our feeling tells us what it's like on the outside.
Yeah.
But we only have the past because we think we live in the present. But by the time the visual information gets in through our eyes, and it's moving really, really fast, is processed, it is actually slowed down a little bit because it has to wait for the audio. So if you're looking at somebody speaking, as far as you're concerned, their lips are moving and they are there and everything is in sync. But it's not actually, because the light travels faster than sound. So you should be getting a visual of them before the lips move. But your mind, your brain slows it down and it coordinates, it edits the whole lot.
That is
so what you're
so
getting,
cool.
what you're getting is not strictly speaking present tense. There's a delay.
Jesus,
so
weird.
We only have our past.
I know, that's so weird.
Isn't it? It is weird.
So there is no present then.
There is no present.
Oh
we
my
never
God.
get to experience the present. We think we're in the present. It's actually slightly past.
Slightly past. Yeah.
And so the past is useful then.
But that's what we base our perception on, though, isn't it? Like past experiences, like, you know. So like, but like you and I could walk down the street. The same person could pass us on the street and not speak to us. You could say, "Oh, there must have something going on for them." I could walk the street and go, "What did I do to her? She didn't fucking talk to me. She never even answered me."
Don't take on anybody else's crap. You have enough of your own.
But I think this is so good because with running like with resilience workshops and that in schools, it's just amazing, like to show students of a young age, of that age, kind of like your perception of other people is really the issue. That's what you need to change, you know, rather than trying to change other people. Or if that bully wasn't in my class, I'd be happy and I'd be okay. The truth is, there's always going to be bullies. You know, there's always going to be people that you don't like or don't get on with, or that you clash with. And there's always going to be people that you get on brilliant with, you know, and you click with and whatever else. It's how you manage the people, isn't it?
It is,
you know, and that's the difficulty.
Yeah, and like I suppose a lot of people do blame the world, their upbringing, their background, and all the rest. But I kind of, you know, I say to people sometimes when they're sitting in front of me and they're going, I say, I'm going to need to get a bigger therapy room to get all these people in. And some of them mightn't care. Some of them might know that they're responsible for this. In some ways, I started to say, I don't know whether that guy considered me to be a bully when I was drawing pictures of rabbits on the blackboard. I'd like to think that he thinks well of me, but I don't know. I haven't met the man in years. But he could be sitting in front of a therapist now saying Paul was an awful bastard to me when I was at school.
Like, and he mightn't be. It mightn't have bothered him at all. Maybe he thought you were talking with somebody else. You just like drawing rabbits for some reason.
Rubbish, rabbit fetish. That's another video.
That today.
But when you do have somebody sitting in front of you and they realize actually, hold on, the person that needs to be worked on is actually here. It's the person themselves. You kind of go, okay, so let's start digging then and see what you can do. Where did you get your perceptions from? Exactly. How did you
it's different, isn't it, for, you know, neurotypicals and neurodivergent people like with autism and ADHD, and that their perception's completely different there as well. It
is. You know, I'm one of these people that I don't like too busy places. I don't like pubs or places like that where there's music in the background and there's, you know, noise and whatever, because I can't hear conversations. I like to be sitting just talking to one or two people, whatever. It's too busy. I just can't get it. Now, autistic people, I remember it was a Little Aldi, they were doing a promotion there where you could go in and do your shopping in a kind of they'd switch off the flashing lights, switch off the background music. I think, I thought, I like that.
Lovely. It was between 11 and 1 or something like that every day. They used to dim down the lights and turn off music and everything for sensory overload. You know? I think that was absolutely brilliant. And it was like when COVID came out then as well, they had a space for people that were older as well, you know, that they can come and do their shopping and not be exposed to everyone else in the community as well. That's just so good, wasn't it? That's really good things.
So I suppose I think we're nearly up to time.
I know, yes we are. In 1 minute.
Yes. So to summarize in 1 minute. If there's a problem in your life, think about your perception of that problem. If you're not sure what that perception of the problem is, write it down. Write down, pen and paper, what the problem is and why you think that you feel the way that you do towards that problem. and then begin to work through, well, how is it that I feel like that? Again, in a previous video, I would have said if you had an identical twin who experienced everything you experienced, he or she might have a different perspective. Why?
Absolutely. Why
it's
is
the
that?
way you think.
Yeah. And then do pros and cons, you know, because often what I would find in my own head is many years ago, I like really ruminate on, oh, she this, she that, he this, he that, you know, and you know, how is that serving you? You know, what good is it doing you? And then you can really start to dig deep and say, well, how do I want to feel about that? What do I want to do? And write that all down. Because there's a thing about writing things down, isn't there?
Oh,
Be speaking about it or writing it down.
you take it out of your head.
Yeah, gets out of your head. Really good.
It's out of your head. Okay, we'll get out of your face. End of this podcast. Yes. Like us and subscribe to us, please.
Yes, please. And if you have any comments, just pop them down below. Let us know, you know, if there's any questions you have. We'd be delighted to answer them for you too. And thanks a million for tuning in. See you again next week, guys. Bye.